Before I turn this on, I want to show my face, show myself, and explain something about Kentucky. You know, I knew Kentucky was a bad boy state. Whenever you look at all the other states, and there's only 4 states out of all the states in America that's considered Commonwealth. And if you go back to the fundamental cores of England, you'll find out that they are, in fact, a country that supports this type of ideology pertaining to Commonwealth. I tied to both of them together towards there never being a full dismantlement or disbarment from what went on in 1776, even towards what went on in 1880 or 1860 pertaining to the Civil War. I look at it towards there never was a total disbarment of one entity from another because of England and it being a Commonwealth country. I got introduced to Kentucky long about the mid 80s was whenever that I had first traveled up into Cadiz, Kentucky, and of course Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and Aurora, Kentucky, and Benton, Kentucky, and started spending a great deal of time. I think it was in 86 or 87 was whenever I got familiarized with the people up in Kentucky. Didn't know nothing about them, didn't know nothing about the TVA stuff, didn't know nothing about Land Between the Lakes, didn't know nothing about Lake Barkley, didn't know nothing about the Tennessee dams as far as a Tennessee dam. I'd heard about a dam up in Kentucky, but keep in mind we was still at distance towards the internet not being predominant like it is today. And to me, it was like another country or another world up until I started driving up that way and started finding out more about the people in Kentucky. And of course, whenever I become familiarized with them during the course of my stay in Land Between the Lakes, I got to understanding a little bit more about Kentucky. I actually went up into Louisville, Kentucky and worked for Mr. Harmon Sims and Sims's brothers that basically own a couple body shops there in Louisville, and went up into the Frankfort, Kentucky area and got more familiarized with Kentucky. And of course, whenever you spend time in LaGrange, Kentucky, like I did pertaining to being evaluated, you even get to know that much more about Kentucky pertaining to the Hatfields and McCoys and up towards Florence, Kentucky, and Big Bone, Kentucky, etc. So it's not just that I've been familiarized with these particular people up here at Hickman, Paducah, Mayfield, Murray, Kentucky. I've been familiarized with basically the whole state of Kentucky. The state of Kentucky has some of the poorest people in the world. People think that the poorest state in the Union is the state of Mississippi. There's many, many counties up in the hills of eastern Kentucky that some of those people, the only way that they have to survive is by growing marijuana crops. And of course, if the wrong person winds up in those areas that shouldn't be up in those areas, it's the same thing as walking up into a steel. Because whenever Reagan shut down all the coal mining industry because of the EPA guidelines, it caused a hardship up onto the people up in eastern Kentucky. So I'm familiar with Kentucky, is my point that I'm trying to make. I truly believe that this hardship that has fallen upon to the state of Kentucky has fallen upon to the state of Kentucky because of how that they have bullied various people such as myself in trying to get their way towards trying to abolish a ministry that was up in the Land Between the Lakes area, staying not only in the Wranglers campground area, but also in the Hillman Ferry campground area, as well as other parts of the park, Joanne in Tennessee, and Sugar Bay up in Kentucky, up towards the Cadiz area and stuff. I truly believe that this hardship has fell up onto the state of Kentucky because of what went on in my particular personal life with a Mr. Wildesworth, that at the time was a prosecuting defender for the state of Kentucky, that lived in Louisville, Kentucky, that tried to represent me in some sort of a way up here in Paducah, Kentucky, whenever they decided that they was going to shaft me for me having the desire of wanting to go after the axes of evil. I truly believe that this hardship has fallen upon to these people because of this. I pray for the people in Kentucky. I pray for the leadership of Kentucky. But the bottom line is this: whenever you have such rules like they have in the state of Kentucky, to the point that their legal system does not permit any type of being able to fight your case outside of being imprisoned the way that the state of Kentucky is, it is a very, very indicious tribal type environment that only surrounds the predominant, the rich, and the powerful, and the rest of them can basically go straight to you know what. So as you watch this, remember, what goes around comes back around full circle. And vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. And no, I don't wish none of this stuff upon to the people of Kentucky, but the bottom line is that their officials have brought it upon to all of them because of their unjust due. And the same thing is coming near a neighborhood right here in the state of Tennessee if they don't clean up their act and get their stuff together. Because it's spreading. It's not just in this little town. It's not just in this city. It's not just over here in this state. It's bouncing around. And I'm seeing it growing, festering, just like a cancer, and getting worse. So as you watch this, remember that, please, as they're explaining the court proceedings and what has occurred here in regard to the Miss Taylor case, the death of Miss Taylor, and no officers charged in the death of Miss Taylor.
Guard anywhere. In fact, you cannot see a member of the Louisville Police Department anywhere. And I think until there's some sign that things are turning, that things are going south, you won't. I think they want to sort of be stood back, not seen by people hearing.
All right, Cal, stay with me. Kimberly, I wanted to get your thoughts on a point that Cal raised there, which is so much of the reforms that we've seen over the last 6 months within the LMPD as well as elsewhere are driven by these street protests. I'm curious to get your thoughts as to where that street level protest goes next to kind of impact the change you were describing in terms of what the system needs to have overhauled.
Well, I think as we heard earlier, it's absolutely the case that at the highest level, this is really a political matter. We see it on all sides of the spectrum. In fact, the current occupant in the White House right now would characterize Black Lives Matter, so many of the other protests, so many of the other sources of understanding about why this problem continues to happen, what it is about the war on drugs and the war on crime that ends up being a war on communities of color, what it is about implicit biases that continue to make certain bodies expendable and certain bodies not expendable. He would frame all of these efforts to draw attention to this problem as un-American. un-American, as anti-American, as things that can't be talked about and can't be seen anymore. So this moment, this protest is moving from the streets to the halls of Congress, to the federal government, to the academy. This really is a Cold War of ideas. And one of the ideas is whether Black Lives Matter. So Black Lives Matter right now is an aspirational demand in which some are willing to say, no, they don't matter so much, and they're willing to take up arms to make that the case, and others who are willing to put their bodies on the line to make it clear that racial injustice is the issue of the moment. And this moment, right now, trust. People have been waiting for this for months, and the people that I'm most concerned about are those militias coming in. We really have to be very careful in this moment, watch very carefully to see what happens, and report accurately about where, if there is violence, it's going to come from.
I want to play for all of you a point that was raised by Daniel Cameron, the Kentucky Attorney General. Obviously, we see the street protests. We've been watching the street protests, but he took particular aim at celebrities and what he called influencers who had taken up the cause of Breonna Taylor.
See, I'm going to go as far as say this. After that, I was up in Kentucky working for Sens's brothers, Herman and his brother up there. This was right after the real estate market had dropped in 2008, as young Bush was leaving office that had to borrow $775 billion, basically $1 trillion, just to bail out all the banks, just to bail out the car industries and 2 or 3 other places. And to this day, they still don't know where all that money went to. After that, I had started working for a group of people up there, understanding the fundamentals of Kentucky, where Lewis and Clark come from. I understood that there was a great divide in Kentucky that wasn't just hitting me, but it was hitting other people, especially whenever you have the FBI pull you over in broad daylight in Florence, Kentucky, make you get out of your vehicle, go down to the precinct, and 3 hours later, order for you to take off your shoes and say, well, it was a misidentification because this individual has all his toes, and the individual that we was looking for was missing a toe. Whenever I seen the illegitimacies that was going on, not just in land between the lakes around Benton, Mayfield, Murray, Paducah, Calvert City, Aurora, Kentucky, but whenever I seen these same illegitimacies going on in places like Florence, Kentucky, Big Bone, Kentucky, I knew then that the state of Kentucky was operating basically illegally, to the point that it only references to the powerful and those who have already been established there in Kentucky. As far as an outsider, such as myself coming in, I didn't have a snowball chance in hell. Especially somebody that was up in the woods fasting and praying for peace up onto the earth, fasting and praying for a revival, knowing that I was physically attacked by a group of people that worked in the federal park pertaining to Dwayne Camry, badge number 1414, that is already retired, his assistant, Gary Hawkins, and his wife, Gary Hawkins, Lisa Hawkins, that worked in the dispatch center. I knew what type of rank, corrupt, evil, demonic people that I was working with, towards them being selfish and not caring about the rest of their society. Because all I was doing was trying to help the people, not hurt the people. And of course, some of the people up there in Grand Rivers, in Livingston County, will tell you to this day, yeah, we tried to ruin this individual. We tried to make it out like he was a homegrown terrorist, like he was going to blow up the Kentucky Dam. So whatever befallens upon to the state of Kentucky, including with me working with the assistant, John, that worked in security up at the Capitol, working with him directly online ever since basically 2008. 2008, 2009. Now, to this day, I still send John material, but I don't never hear anything from John, because now John has moved up the totem ladder to where he's no longer working in security, but now I think he's actually like the governor's assistant or the lieutenant governor or the assistant governor. In other words, he's right up there shoulder to shoulder with the governor now, Governor Beshears, the very same governor that tried to bury me, that made sure that I come back from the state of Oklahoma and that I got what I was supposed to be getting after they incarcerated me illegitimately in Christian County over a charge that come out of Trigg County, Cadiz, Kentucky, over 2 initial telephone calls. In addition to what the state of Kentucky on a federal level had done already put me through prior to 2012, in 2009, towards me going all the way up to MCC in downtown Chicago, being studied like a laboratory rat. In addition to what went on in 2008, towards them taking me to Grand Rivers Behavior Center and having me evaluated for 3 or 4 hours after they basically stole my truck and put it in pound in the state trooper's office, and the only way for me to gotten it back was to been out about $200 over charges, even though there wasn't no official charges placed on my life or there wasn't no doctor's orders. In addition to what went on in Aurora, Kentucky, while me staying in a private campground towards 2 federal FBI officers, 2 state troopers, 2 cops coming out of Murray, Kentucky, I think it was Marshall County, and 2 TBI agents, not TBI, but Tennessee Valley Authority out of the state of Tennessee, basically 7 or 8 cars trying to once more inject the possibility of me being a homegrown terrorist towards them wanting to bury me. So whenever I got familiarized with the people in Kentucky, various people in Kentucky, not all of them, but various people in Kentucky towards how they operate, I realized how shady, dirty, and corrupt that the state of Kentucky really was. Especially whenever I worked a while there in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, working for Kentucky Collision Clinic, and after I realized that the Kentucky New Era in 2013 put out such of an article on their first page about how that I was this and that, and brought up all kinds of stuff in my life about what happened to me in Oklahoma, and brought up false charges that I had threatened a police officer in the state of Tennessee towards going to decapitate a police officer, a state trooper, or somebody like that in the state of Tennessee. Whenever I realized how dirty and corrupt that their media was, working hand in hand with the authorities, the only thing that I can say is that they got it coming towards whatever comes about all this. And trust me, I do not wish for hostility, violence, or bloodshed, but the bottom line is this: whenever you're dealing with such of a corrupt state, that's an illegal state, that's run on the level that Kentucky is run off of, my God, anything's liable to happen. And you got other states that operate that same way. I'm not going to sit here and name them all off to you pertaining to these Yahoo states. But the bottom line is, if you're not the right person with the right influences, you'll never stand a chance on growing and becoming more mature in the state of Kentucky, because they will keep you hammered down, beat down, driven down. They will keep you down some way or another to the point that you won't even be able to open up a lemonade stand. And I do mean that. You know, it's supposed to be free enterprise, but not in the Commonwealth state of Kentucky. And if you ever get in trouble with the state of Kentucky, they do not have bondsmen. You can make bond, but they do not have legal bondsmen in the state of Kentucky. So the only way that you can make bond, it has to be either a cash bond or a property bond to be able to make bond in the Commonwealth state of Kentucky. And I have connected the two still together pertaining to England, the Commonwealth state of the country of England, versus having some sort of connections with the Commonwealth states here in the United States. In other words, whenever we won our independence, we didn't win our whole independence, our full independence. We still have ties with England towards having to share proceeds with the country of England to this day over here in the United States. In addition to them being in control over in places like the Panama Canal and being in control of several islands up towards Alaska and being in control of 2 or 3 little countries over towards Maine, going into Canada. England still has its grips up on various places of the homesteads that it originally had before the Revolutionary War that happened here in America. But I've done a lot of tracking, a lot of research, finding out a lot of things about the people in Kentucky. And if they like you, and if you fit in with them, they'll do anything in the world for you. But if they don't like you for whatever reason, some of the biased, one-sided, hypocrite type people that I think I've ever met. I mean, even my ex-bosses up in Louisville, Kentucky, that run the 2 or 3 body shops that they had up there pertaining to the brothers, the Herman family. They'll tell you that they hate the politics in Louisville, Kentucky. And the only reason why that they deal with what they deal with all the insurance companies in the auto body shop industry is because they're forced to have to deal with them on the level that they deal with them on. But if they had their choices, they would sell out, quit doing any work for the general public pertaining to insurance work, and go back to old school ways, the way that it used to be before the politics took over in the insurance company era. Sad. It's really, really sad whenever it takes this type of resistance just to get people's attention towards how corrupt that these corrupt states, these corrupt counties really and truly are. It's really, really sad that it takes something like this to rattle them, to shake them. And there'll be some of them that will never let go of their old ideals. They'll never let go of their old money. They'll never let go of what they believe in, even if it means a civil war and them dying in their grave. There'll be some of them that won't never give way towards allowing for the new generation to grow up and have a fair chance. Same way in the state of Tennessee, same way in the state of Mississippi, same way in the state of North Carolina. It's that way basically across the board. Some states are a little more prominent than others. Some states are a little more liberal than others. Some states is too liberal. Like if you go out west, you decide that you want to open up a church in the name of Sensimilla, or in the name of Redbud, or in the name of Jamaica, or in the name of any other well-known marijuana crop-producing country that comes from down around Colombia. You can open up a church out west and have a flock of people coming to it. All in the name of Jesus. So out there, they're actually too liberal. To where whenever you come over the Mississippi River, coming to the old ways over here, they're too conservative. But at the same time, they manipulate their conservativeness to the point that it's all based around those that's already in power and those that's already got a good footing, a good stronghold. Very, very unfair. Very unfair. One of the unfairest states that I ever dealt with, other than the state of Tennessee, towards how that they will railroad you and bamboozle you, because these are the people who are in control and in charge.
Taylor, listen to what he said during his press conference.
There will be celebrities, influencers, and activists who, having never lived in Kentucky, will try to tell us how to feel, suggesting they understand the facts of this case and that they know our community and the Commonwealth better than we do. But they don't. Let's not give in to their attempts to influence our thinking or capture our emotions.
See what I'm saying?
Certainly keep a pulse
See
on
what
the
I'm
beat with your
saying?
show.
See what I'm saying? Old school, old ways, old money, old way of thinking. Uh-huh. In other words, Kentucky is like the state of Tennessee towards being behind as far as the rest of the nation that's pulling together in reforming and giving people chances and forgetting about the past and quit using tactics such as double jeopardy tactics that they know that they're not supposed to be using on people, but they use it anyway, just like they used it on me. Using double jeopardy tactics on punishing somebody multiple times for the same charge. And Miss Jolene Nugent can verify that as my public offender in Wheeling, West Virginia, as well as the public offender that I had in Trigg County by the name of Miss Flemings. Miss Flemings has a husband that is a juvenile judge over in Christian County. I know these people. I'm telling you, I know these people. Whenever they look at you and tell you, we're going to charge you with a Class E felony because you cannot premeditate towards going to kill or go after Satan. Satan in the flesh. That tells me that their whole judicial system supports inadequacies. It supports injustice versus justice. You don't tell somebody that's going after the axes of evil that what they're doing is wrong. Not if you're a godly state or a godly neighborhood to begin with. Brother, the whole Bible surrounds good and bad, and according to the way that I've interpreted it, good is going to exceed over bad. I don't care how many corrupt judges or how many corrupt LBL, Land Between the Lakes, law enforcement agencies that they have working together. I don't care how many people that they got in Trigg County or Christian County or up towards Florence, Kentucky or Bendbone, Kentucky or Louisville, Kentucky. I don't care how many unjust federal officials that they have working in that state. You're not supposed to go up against the Bible, and that's exactly what they have done. Rather than them supporting the founder of the ministry that wants to eradicate the axes of evil, they wanted to punish him. They wanted to put him away. They wanted to take him to downtown Chicago in MCC in front of a Dr. Dana, where Dr. Dana would have basically buried me in the mental health community. And because he didn't do that, they was pissed, and they come at me again the third time towards taking me to LaGrange, Kentucky, to their state doctors. And this time they did leave a bigger mark by putting me on Risperdal that caused breast enhancement and obesity. So yes, I'm fully familiar with the operations in the Commonwealth state of Kentucky. Very familiar.
Your program about the culture.
Just like I'm very familiar with how the underhand dealings goes on right here in the state of Tennessee, beginning in Madison County up in Jackson, Tennessee in 1989, and then other various charges up in Nashville, Knoxville, and right here in Weakley and Obion County. I'm very, very familiar how they trample and stomple on the Constitution and only allow for certain people to have freedom of speech. They only allow for certain people to pursue in their happiness pertaining to freedom of expression and freedom of religion. But if you're not with them, they will boycott you. And they will make your life miserable. And now this misery that they have befallen upon to the innocent